All right, everybody, what's going on? Needs more drums back in our city that has yet to be named. And this is your final reminder to get your name suggestions in. Leave them in the comments. Also, probably going to put up a poll pretty soon, some of my favorites. And, I have read everyone's comments and suggestions already, and I really appreciate them. So thank you. And I think, I'm going to try to work every name suggestion in somehow. I'm kind of getting a little bit of a theme here from a lot of the suggestions, and so I've even thought of some of my own that I might try to tie in, and so we'll be getting there pretty soon. But in the meantime, keep them coming. Again, I really appreciate it. So today, what we're gonna do, we have this nice overview of the city, and I think it's kind of time. We've been kind of a little bit in the weeds in some of these areas, just really focusing on very specific things, and I think it's time to kind of take a step back and just look at the city as a whole and just take it all in. And I think it's getting there, but it doesn't look great yet. And I think one of the reasons for that, and probably the reason that we're going to tackle today, is because there's just a lot of empty space where there shouldn't be. And now I like having empty space in my city, but deliberate empty space, right? So for example, if we have my cursor that we can now see, it's hard to see with the snow, but you can see it down here at the bottom of the screen. So just kind of right over here in this area, this is going to be deliberate empty space for now. And I want this to be kind of like a park or some kind of focal point later on. I want this to be a special part of the city. So we're going to do something with this for now to kind of make it look not just like I'm not, building anything there, because I will build something there in due time. But for now, it's just going to be a little bit of a focal point. Same with this. I kind of want this area down here to be, again, some sort of park, some sort of open area, a bit of a focal point. So this whole coastline is going to be, not densely populated with buildings, and I'm kind of going to give this a unique, I'm going to make these into a unique spot. So we're going to do something like that, and we're going to just spend today filling in a lot of these gaps. We have this whole part of the city here that's pretty empty that I kind of just threw together to satisfy some residential demand and education demand. We have a school here, but all this, like right here, this is definitely, this needs to have something there. This needs to have some, higher density buildings or something, or just anything. It's just totally looks awful right now because there's nothing there. And same with this part right here. This is the main part of today's episode, is I really want to develop some kind of downtown area here. I didn't really plan on this being like a smaller, dense area, but I think that's what we're going to do. And I think another thing that I want to do too is try to tie the train line in here as well. So we currently have this station that we set up the rail lines in the last episode. So we have this train line here, and this passenger line goes all the way up to this part of the city over here. But what I would like to do is try to get one over here too, so that people can get across the river with a way other than by car. Or, I don't really want to set up any public transport on this bridge here. So it would make sense, since we have this existing train line, it would make sense to try to get some sort of train station over here in some capacity. And I know with the way that the terrain is and the way this highway is, it's going to be a little bit difficult, but we're going to try to make something work. And I also have an idea about how we're going to make this highway work and try to get it to tie in, to all of this as well. So I think that's enough of an intro. We got a little bit to do today, so let's go ahead and just get building. All right, guys, so just getting things started off with a time lapse here. And I'm going to do a couple of time lapses in this episode because I did get a lot of building done. And so this first one is just kind of, taking this open space that I mentioned at the beginning is, wanting this to be a deliberate space, deliberately open, I guess that is, and empty, and I just added some pathways around there. And the same thing here, just kind of dragging out a road. Going to end up placing down a little roundabout, a little park, and a little, I realized I didn't leave enough space for a parking lot, which is okay for now. But at the very least, I plan to drag out a lot of pathways around this area, make this area very walkable, a lot of trees, just as kind of like a nice focal point for the city. And, maybe later on in the future, we'll actually develop this up and, put something here of significance. But for now, I do kind of like having this empty space along the coast. I think it looks very natural, very nice, as opposed to having this densely populated. I always take inspiration, for these areas, obviously from Chicago and stuff. There's a large amount of parks and walkable pathways and trails kind of along the coast of Lake Michigan. So I always like to mimic that in my cities. And even something like this, what I'm about to build here, it's like a little bit of a residential development just right on the coast. A couple of apartment buildings, with a small little inlet drive. And this is something else that I see a lot of the time in Chicago. You have this road that goes along the coast, but then in some of the areas as well, you'll have these little branches that kind of, come off of the main road, and you'll see these little individual apartment buildings there, some nice coastside real estate. So just trying to mimic that here in this city as well, since we don't have any types of keys or anything yet, as far as I could tell in the base game. So it's kind of difficult to work with coastlines at the moment. So I feel like this is kind of a nice way to fill that empty space without making something look too awkward and unnatural. Having like these pathways and these small little developments kind of help use the land in an efficient way while still making something look somewhat reasonable. So let's go ahead and wrap this up, jump into a quick little live play for some additional comments, and then we'll jump into another time lapse. All right, and so it is now springtime, which is very nice. And I was just taking a minute to kind of look at some of this traffic right here. We were getting a huge traffic jam all the way down this one-way road, and it seemed like a lot of people were trying to get from this street to the train station. So I'm hoping that this will help solve this issue. I upgraded a couple of these segments to the larger one-way roads with 3 lanes instead of 2, and then I made this a 5-lane asymmetrical road with a dedicated not truly dedicated, but a half dedicated, I guess, turn lane, and then an extra straight lane because it looked like people were getting backed up by a lot of the people trying to make a left. So hopefully this will help that. And people can also go straight if they need to. So this should help a little bit. We'll keep an eye on this. I anticipate a later episode will be where we dedicate, a whole episode to traffic and everything, but that is not the time for that right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and get back into the build. But yeah, I'm not super happy with some of these trees and these forested areas. The hard part about this game is that you can't see the trees full size. They take some time to grow, so it's kind of frustrating when you're trying to put down trees. I definitely overdid it with trees over here, and as they grow, I'll probably have to delete some because it'll look, don't want this area to look completely like a forest. But I did want to fill this space a little bit with some parkways, with some pathways and trees to kind of make it a little bit more open, like I said in the beginning of the episode. So anyway, let's go ahead and keep on going. I'm going to jump probably across the pond here to the next area where there's a lot of industrial issues apparently, but we're going to solve that again in a later episode. So let's go ahead and just keep going here. All right, so jumping into the second quick time lapse here, the first thing that I wanted to do was just rebuild this whole kind of riverside area. This is one thing that I've really been struggling with in this game. It's scale and kind of working with coastlines in these different parts of the city. So like with scale especially, it's kind of hard to make these areas really, everything. I feel like the way that the map is developed, it looks like I have a big space to work with. But then once I start putting down these main roads and these city blocks, I realize that the space is a lot smaller than I anticipated. So it's kind of hard to, create these downtown areas with, these sweeping highway interchanges and everything with this limited amount of space that I have. Once you don't realize it at first, but then once you start putting down like your highways and your main roads, you realize just how small your city blocks have to be. And so it's something that I'm kind of adjusting to in this game, and it's something that I even still struggle with in City Skylines 1 as well, trying to figure out the right scale for having a big downtown area versus like a smaller mid-sized downtown area. So obviously this area is not going to be a huge downtown area, but I did want to have something a little bit more substantial. And so when I realized that I had a very limited space to work with, I'm trying to create sort of the illusion of a more densely populated city center without actually having a massive amount of space to do, create any kind of urban sprawl. So that's just the goal with this. And overall, like I'm relatively happy with the end result, but I mean, it's, it could use a lot of work. Like this highway interchange that you're seeing me build right now. I mean, this is not my best work. I didn't really realize that the significant terrain difference until kind of after the fact. So we might come back to this later and do a little something to correct it and, maybe change it up a little bit. But for now, I mean, it's okay. It's kind of getting the job done. It's, efficient. And somebody pointed out in one of my earlier videos that my standards are too high for my builds, and then I try to make everything perfect on the first try. And you know what, that is true. I do kind of have to understand that this is still a learning experience for me, both the whole YouTube thing and just City Skylines 2 especially. So as we play the game and build out more of the city, obviously things will start to look more natural and a bit better. But I'm still just kind of learning the mechanics and how everything works together. So pardon any unappealing mistakes. Everything will hopefully be a little bit more smoothed out in the future, but it is part of the game, and I want to show you guys how this is all coming along. So anyway, back to a little bit of a live play, and I'll talk to you guys again in just a second. Man, that is just horrendous, but it works, and it's the best we could do without something like Move It. So we're just gonna deal with it for now. Yeah, I think this looks absolutely terrible, but it's okay. We will survive for now. Yeah, let's just go ahead and get some buildings put down here and kind of get a little grid going. Hopefully we can finish up this this whole part of the city in this episode. So let's just go ahead, jump into a time lapse. Let's get into it. Talk to you guys in a bit. All right, everyone, here is the somewhat finished product of our time-lapse build. Spent quite a bit of time actually building this, so I'm liking the way it's starting to turn out. You know, from a distance here, if we just kind of go into photo mode here, you can see, you know, like this area looks a little bit more put together now that we've added some pathways in. Even if it just is temporary, it just gives it a little bit more, you know, life, and it looks like it's actually been it's not just some vacant spot in some empty space. It looks like it's, you know, something purposeful. So I do like to go around and just kind of do this to fill some of the space, even if we're going to come back to it later. It just looks, you know, a little bit better, and it doesn't even take long. It takes, you know, 10-20 seconds to drag out these pathways and just plop down a few trees. Maybe not 10-20 seconds, but you get the idea. Even here, you know, I'm not too happy with the high density buildings, but we just didn't have much demand for medium density. So I think over time, like these are kind of fine, but like this one is kind of odd just right here. It's a little bit too big for the space. So I think what I'm going to do over time is kind of, you know, fill this out with some medium density zones once we get the demand, and probably replace this one with a medium density zone as well. The one issue that I kind of have with this design here that I'm not super proud of is this whole spot here. I think I might do a bit of like a kind of like a reorganization of this area here, because realistically, you know, you would think that you would have some kind of main road coming along this way, and it just isn't there at the moment. And so I don't even know if I did that, I probably won't even need, you know, this weird highway junction. I can get another city block out of here. I think I might clean this up. The only reason that I did this kind of weird highway junction the way it is because we have this train track going through here like this. So I'm thinking, you know, maybe I could do something with I do like to experiment. One thing that I've been kind of looking at a little bit more in City Skylines is kind of taking advantage of different levels of development, meaning, I guess, different levels of infrastructure. And I mean that very literally, you know, like having elevated sections and underground sections and ground level sections, and seeing kind of how you can make the best use of the space. So what I want to do perhaps in the future is, I might mess around with this a little bit off camera too, but just, you know, we have this elevated highway exit, we have this elevated highway part here, this ground level train track, maybe adding like an underground avenue here to connect up to this roundabout, and that could kind of eliminate the need, you know, we could have it pop above ground, eliminate the need for these weird highway intersections, kind of have this come out here maybe a little bit more if we can. Yeah, I think there's some room to work with some of this a little bit better. So I'm just going to keep that in mind and kind of experiment with that off camera. I'm still not super great with, you know, everything in City Skylines 2 yet, as you could tell. But yeah, and then, you know, maybe we can get rid of this whole weird city block and, you know, kind of connect up a main road that goes all the way over here. I think that makes a little bit more sense than what we got going on right now. So we'll see about that in the future. And I'm not liking the transition here to this like low density zone either. But what I am going to do probably in the next episode, I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but, you know, just like to think out loud sometimes. I would like to focus on expanding out over here and maybe even over here, kind of getting something, you know, this is where we're going to start to see kind of the boundaries of our city for now. I want to have some kind of highway interchange, you know, maybe here like a T interchange, have some sort of, not necessarily a highway, but at least like a regional road, if that makes sense, like a 2-lane, you know, like one way, not one way, you know, one lane going each way, just a road that kind of snakes along here, kind of a scenic route, and then it'll come along the coast, and we can have, you know, some low density housing and probably a little city over here, but nothing super extravagant. I don't really think I'm going to do a port city over here either. It is a good spot for it, to be honest, but actually, you know, I take that back. Maybe I will do a little bit of a port here, or over here, you know, maybe I can make this some kind of waterfront destination attraction, something like that, a nice little waterfront city, you know, kind of medium density, not quite like this one, but something a little bit more like this, and a little bit more just, you know, this is a very small space. We can only get like a couple blocks out of it probably, but at the very least, you know, we can make this a little bit more of a populated area and have some suburbs that kind of make their way up into the hills a little bit, because, you know, I want to be mindful of the height, so I don't want to get too high, But there are some areas here before with this dense forest that we could actually turn into some nice low density suburbs and alleviate some of the demand that we're having, which, by the way, is pretty high at the moment. We can see we have a lot of low density demand for both residential and commercial. So taking advantage of some of this empty space will really help that. And then over here, you know, I'm planning some a little bit of industry, a little bit of farmland, you know, something interesting so we can start getting some specialized industry in the mix here. So yeah, I'm very happy with what we did today. We got quite a bit done, and I'm thinking that the city is looking quite a bit better, a little bit more complete. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with it overall. So in the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all have a great week, and stay tuned for more City Skylines 2 videos. Stay tuned for some more City Skylines 1 videos coming back soon. I'm feeling like, you know, it's Rajinsky's about to make a reprise, if you will. So yeah, it's back. I've been working on it in the background, just trying to get a few videos together before I release any. But yeah, so stay tuned for that. Lots of exciting things coming. I am still having fun with this game, still learning, but you know, it is fun to get back into it. I feel like I haven't played it, you know, too much in a while. So again, thank you all for watching. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Peace out.